Welcome to another edition of Futurartist Records Presents. My guest today is a young videographer from Durango, Colorado, and he's also the CEO and founder of Out of This World Entertainment. Futurartist Records presents Daniel Sandner.
Thank you, Michael.
For coming in. And you drove a ways today.
A little ways.
You have other things going on, I understand, but you drove a ways to get here, so I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Let's jump right into the fray here and get into how did Out of This World Entertainment come about?
Well, Out of This World Entertainment kind of came about as a run and gun, fun time with my niece and nephews, really.
Cool.
My parents had this little red digital camera. Don't even know what it was, to be honest. But I knew it was a lot of fun just getting to play with my niece and nephews. We always loved doing the whole adventure type thing. So we would go and play games about pirates or spies and that kind of thing. And this camera was a way to kind of capture that. I found Windows Movie Maker on my computer at home and started chopping this stuff together. And before you knew it, we had these fun, relatively cheesy representations of these adventures that we were having. And so we had one that was in a haunted house, and one, even though we were out in the woods of Colorado, somehow we were on a pirate ship and stuff. So it started out as just ways to mirror these adventures that I was having with my niece and nephews. So.
Is that always something you've been interested in, or it just kind of was just by chance?
Well, they kind of expected me to. Their next closest uncle he's older, and he's not so much with them as often as I am. So whenever they come over to the house to be with me and my parents, they always expect me to do some sort of fun adventure with them. So
cool.
We'll go hiking or
and that gives you a nice outlet that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. Yeah. Working with them and doing this kind of thing, you and I spoke before the show about creative storytelling and how that kind of drives what you do. Why don't you touch on that a little bit and tell us where you've got the inspiration for that approach?
Yeah, for sure. My dad has had this wall of movies. It's in our office, and it is probably 8 foot tall, 4 foot wide. And we did a count of it one time. It has about 800 to 1,000 movies in there between VHS and DVD. A lot of them are Disney. At least half of the wall is Disney.
Wow.
And so I've gotten this big inspiration from my upbringing from childhood all the way till now, that Disney movies, as they have for a lot of us as children, have kind of been what we have grown up on. And so Disney, both Walt Disney and the Walt Disney Company, have been pushing the limit. And they've been doing so since they came to California in 1923
for sure.
With things like the multiplane camera and the different ways that they were able to bring animation to life, for instance. So my childhood was filled with a lot of this. I mean, even through the 2000s, I was still living in the 90s with my parents in that Disney Renaissance kind of era. So I've always just been fascinated with everything that Disney has done and been a bit of a Disney freak in that regard. And so a lot of my early cheesy films with my niece and nephews has been things like, unlocking this chest with a way to get to Disney World to go, escape from reality, that kind of thing. So I've just been enamored with the man and everything that he has done in particular in his era, and then where they have progressed now with their CGI films and so on and so forth. So I've always just been inspired by their creative storytelling, their new ways of inventing how to tell stories.
Right.
So,
cool. Very cool. Speaking of that, what kinds of projects with your company do you do? Do you do a lot of independent film stuff? And this is kind of a trick question because I already know some of these things, but for the audience, you do more conventions, more just kind of side projects? Kind of where does Out of This World Entertainment sit?
Well, as of right now, bit of a jack of all trades. I do just about anything from short films. That's what I love doing, ultimately. Cool. To weddings, done a couple weddings. I do a lot of live work for my mom's business in Durango. It's called Lifeguard. And they do this big youth conference where it's near 1,000 kids every year, held in Farmington, just next door. Yeah. And I do the live AV with my elder brother. And so we do live work up on the wall so people can see who the speakers are, and then at the end I put together a big video for that. Lately I've been doing a lot of commercials for folks in town. I kind of got in with one doctor and they knew another doctor. And
right.
So I've been making my way, done some stuff with a genealogist, which has been very fascinating.
That's cool, yeah.
So a lot of fascinating things. Done a little bit of drone work. So a bit of everything. A lot of times if people have issues with editing things, since I do go to Fort Lewis and I'm a part of the music department, sometimes they'll take recordings of the concert and they don't really have a way to put the audio that they record in-house and mash it with the video, so they'll send that to me to do. So a little bit of everything.
Cool.
Editing and video. So.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
As an independent, what do you see as the perks and the challenges of videography? And kind of a sub-questions to that is, do you follow a set of rules when you go into a project, or do you kind of make it up as you go? Do you find that there's a basic set of rules that always applies whether you want to make it up as you go or not?
Mm-hmm. Well, being a total independent, it's hard for me, being also a hobbyist, to hire other people on, because jobs can be pretty sparse, and a lot of times it really depends. I do have a couple friends who are interested in the field, and like me, they're not really educated in the field. They're kind of learning as we go, trying new things and experimenting. And so, say for instance, I have a wedding, I'll have a friend come on and I'll hire them on, and we'll kind of share the profit from that. But as for rules going into things, it's something I've really had to establish as I've gone.
Okay.
So I'm still working on revising I have a contract, but I'm working on revising it and making it more universal towards the gigs that I do. And then I'm working on a form that folks can fill out to really try to give me a good idea of what they want. Because one of these doctors I did a video for was kind of hard to figure out what she wanted, because even she didn't really know what she wanted.
Right.
And so I'm working on something that can help the clients that I work for really get an idea of what they want, so then I can help them to the best of my ability. So It's been a lot of figuring out what works and what doesn't work, and trying to find a way to fix that. And since it's just me, typically when I go on a gig, it can be really a single camera setup. I have access to setting up other cameras or setting up specific, means of filming these, say, an interview like this.
Right.
But it's hard for me to be jumping around from camera to camera. So a lot of times it's me, myself, and I just trying to find the best way to go about a situation. So
do you think that there's a different set of rules from a wedding gig to an independent film? Do you find that there's a base that always applies no matter what?
A little of both. I really like taking that creative storytelling aspect and trying to bring it throughout. If I'm doing a wedding, depending on what the client wants, I'd like to give it that really nice, whimsical, magical kind of day effect. So, multiple cameras, drone shots if they want them, and really the final edit being something that they'll look at, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, and be like, that was a wonderful day, and encapsulating the spirit of the day in that video.
Gotcha.
As opposed to a short film, the benefits of that, you can work with one camera. It's harder, but you can typically have a crew or whatnot with you, and you can I feel you can take your time more. So I feel you can bring the same, my creative storytelling persona, bring that to both, but obviously there are different elements to both. You know. With a camera, I'd probably have to bring on another person to catch that live moment, as opposed to the working on a short film where you really have more time, more independence to get the things done.
You can piece things together a little bit more.
Yeah, you rely more on editing, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. We had talked about this before the show too, and it's really changed everything, whether it's good or bad, and I'll let you go into that. What's been the effect of cell phones on videography? You've said a couple things. I know you're a big Star Wars fan as well. One of the things you said is the best camera is the one that you have. So I'd like you to kind of explain what that means. But then the other thing is being rich does not a videographer make. Kind of a Yoda type saying there.
A little bit, yes.
So explain those.
Well, as for the cell phone thing, I have been noticing as cell phones have been progressing that even the cell phone I have in my pocket, just an iPhone, shoots higher resolution video than my home base camera. I'm able to shoot 4K at 30 frames with my cell phone. And it's wonderful. I mean, granted, I love it as a videographer,
Sure.
but it makes it really difficult with people who have the newest iPhones or Pixels or whatever that go out there and they shoot equally as stunning looking videos with these phones, and it makes it really hard as kind of a run and gun videographer, someone trying to pursue leads for jobs and things like that, to get a similar effect with the gear that you have invested time and money in, as opposed to someone who may just have kind of inherited a phone, their parents might have paid for it. So granted, phones are great, but it's really hard when you have people who can capture such amazing pictures with something so simple, as opposed to someone who has saved up for a camera with a bigger sensor that can technically do more, but on the surface, people are like, ooh, 4K, and they're impressed by that, that much alone, or it can do 120 frames slow motion when the camera I have can do maybe 30 frames and I'll just slow it down. So, it's choppy.
Right.
So it's frustrating. But on the flip side of that, being a videographer, springing to get the phone that I got for the benefits of that camera can be really nice, because there have been countless times where I don't want to take my gear on trips. I was recently very blessed to get to go to Europe this last year with my college choir. I'm in college now. But anyways, got to go to Europe and got to go to Germany and Austria. And it was great not having to bring my massive gear with me, but to have this incredibly powerful cell phone camera with me. Granted, the zoom wasn't as nice as I would have wanted, but I was able to perform a lot of record a lot of our concerts in these giant cathedrals. And I did bring an audio recorder, but it was great to have the beautiful picture. You could get these sweeping panoramas and all that stuff. So it's a double-edged sword. With that one, and I really like phones and what they can do. But granted, they make it hard on a videographer nowadays, because it gives this incredible power to anyone who can afford it. Bringing it to your next point. That you were saying that money does not a videographer make. And I'm an inherent believer that, you can have all the money in the world. You can have the nicest camera in the world. It can have beautiful resolution, wonderful frame rates, wonderful bit rates, sound, all of that jazz. But it's not going to be great unless the person holding it knows what they're doing and, has the desire to make a compelling story or to set up a beautiful shot. It's not going to mean anything. And
that's where that creative storytelling really can have a huge impact on what you're trying to capture.
I just feel that unless you have the desire, you can have the best gear, but it's not going to go anywhere unless you have that desire and frankly, even a little bit of talent behind it. I mean, or even you striving to gain experience, even if you don't have the talent, I feel is just as good. But
well, and going back to the best camera is the one that you have. We had talked before the show about producers and composers and different things, and something that I've found is that if you're a creative person, you're going to be creative with whatever you have. So if you don't have super high-end equipment, but you're creative, you're going to come up with some pretty cool stuff. Which, like you said, if you don't have that, you can have the nicest camera in the world. It's not going to do you any good. So, I can see how that would be very tricky.
Goes back with the red digital camera too.
The
best camera I had on me. And it was wonderful for what it was. It worked. That and Movie Maker went hand in hand with each other, and it was great.
And it gives you an opportunity to learn without going broke.
Exactly.
Which is always good.
It is always great. And there was recently a short I had seen, actually I don't believe if it's out yet, but I'd seen behind the scenes of it, and it was one that was recorded completely on a cell phone. They recorded it on a cell phone and a pair of headphones. Don't remember what they were specifically, but they're 360-degree headphones. And when you put them in, they're recording 360 sound, and you're hearing the 360 sound. And they had recorded this entire short all on some phone, not sure what it was. And it was very effective. I don't know where it is or when it's coming out or whatnot, but very impressive. So
it's going that direction
with the will.
Options.
There is certainly a way. So
okay, so talking about recording with cell phones and the double-edged sword and all of that and different things you can do with them, which do you prefer? Which rubbed you the wrong way? shooting portrait, which is up and down, or shooting landscape, which is horizontal?
I'm actually really glad we asked this question, or you asked this question, because I'm working for someone in Durango, a photographer, and he's really trying to get on Instagram TV. He's really trying to make that whole situation work.
Yeah.
The issue with that, being someone who loves the widescreen feel, it's a very cinematic feel, and it's a fairly traditional feel for really anything. Instagram TV requires a vertical framing, and it is incredibly annoying for me as someone who loves landscape because it cuts off everything. And so with the whole cell phone situation, part of the thing that's frustrating is, for instance, people who are recording a childhood memory. Say their kid is in a show, and they're recording this thing, or a parade or whatnot, and they're holding their phone like this. When they go back and look at that in a bunch of years, once their child has grown up, they're going to see this little thin sliver with just their child. They're not knowing what's going on. And so as a videographer, it really rubs me the wrong way when people don't just do that. Just, the simple task of turning their phone to the side to get the whole picture.
Right. So we've talked a little bit about Instagram and how that's kind of a new media format and stuff. Is there an issue with that? Because it's such a personal connection. So it's almost always up and down because of that personal connection. Is that an Instagram thing, or is it?
Honestly, couldn't tell you. It seems to be a personal preference with a lot of people, since Instagram's kind of a format that you just do this a lot of the time.
That's a good
when
point.
you hit the Instagram TV icon, it's kind of annoying to do this. And so I don't know if it's really a laziness thing or what have you, but as someone who loves the perks of widescreen, it's quite frustrating when I do gigs for him to promote on Instagram TV, to have to take everything I've done and crop it to the point of that. Because unless I'm recording on a cell phone, I don't have a way to do it. So I'm not sure quite what it is, because you'll even see people walk by them and you'll see them watching YouTube videos. And they'll hold it like this with the YouTube video right up here. And it's hard to tell. Hard to tell if it's a laziness thing or what it is.
Well, and isn't it interesting that people are looking for high def and 4K and pixel counts and everything, and yet they're watching it this big.
Yeah.
And they won't even turn their phone.
Yeah. Yeah, you have these fabulous whatever, OLED screens or liquid retina or whatever is the fad right now, and you're not even appreciating its full full power, Yeah, it's hard to tell. Hard to tell.
That leads me to the next thing, which is drones. It would be interesting to get your take on not only how they can be used, but how they play into quality as far as, working with a big camera or, like you said, the newest cell phone. So how does that work? Because I know you've done some drone work.
Well, I recently entered the drone game. Ever since I've been calling myself out of this world entertainment and started up this business, I have been watching specifically DJI, and they're known for their videography drones. I'm watching them as they've gone from their Phantom series, hanging a GoPro off of it, all the way up to what is now their Mavic 2. Really wonderful tools to have. And so I always knew that that's kind of what I would aspire to eventually save up for one of these, what was really expensive has now become affordable, pieces of amazing gear. It gives you literally a new perspective from what you can do. You can film giant sweeping chase scenes, or you can actually follow cars along, or you can even do simple things like, you can't afford to do a dolly shot or whatnot. You can actually trace someone along. And it's more than you could ever imagine now, but I feel like drones have revolutionized the industry, as annoying as they are to a lot of people. I mean, you hear the word drone and you immediately think, great, someone was flying it over an airport again, or whatnot. But from my standpoint, it's actually been kind of a blessing, because it gives you a really unique perspective, and it gives you a lot of really good, it gives you good credentials to have a drone. Because, if you're someone who has a drone, then it's opened up fields like real estate, or it's opened up things for me. We're known for our Durango and Silverton narrow gauge railroad. And so if you have a drone, you can pretty easily get a gig with the railroad, doing Christmas advertisements or whatnot. And so similar to cell phones, they're a bit of a blessing and a curse, because for us, we recently just had a fire. in a really pretty major fire. And there were days where people were flying their drones over the fire, which is a big no-no.
Right.
And getting everybody in trouble for that because they couldn't fly slurry bombers. So you have a lot of people who have this amazing power and kind of lose the privilege for the rest of us who have saved up and worked for it. But that being said, it's still an amazing tool that I've come to really love because it's the highest res. It records at 100 megabits per second. Really, really nice gear. Gimbal flies up to 40 miles an hour. It's amazing.
Wow.
Very, very cool.
Wow. It opens up all the restrictions that you have by being on the ground too, I'm guessing. So now you can really let your mind go when you're trying to create something.
And it's great. It adds a whole new creative element. Like what I talked about earlier with the multiplane camera that Disney would use, is it gave 2D animation a 3D feel. And it's totally, I believe it's the same thing. Wow. Because you can have a shot of someone. I'm really a sucker for shots of, the protagonist standing on the top of a mountain and the sweeping shot all the way around them. It gives you this entirely new perspective. And I don't have to be able to afford a helicopter. It's beautiful.
Right.
And I mean, the drone I have is this big, but it can go up to 16,000 feet. That's its flight ceiling. Wow. And it can get about 2.5 miles away from me. It's fantastic.
It gives you all sorts of options.
Exactly. You just have to be responsible with it.
Right.
And not go flying over an airport.
Did you look into regulations and stuff when you got yours?
When you get a drone, you have to be certified with the FAA.
Oh, interesting.
So if it's over, not 20 grams, more than that, maybe 200 grams or something like that, if it's over a weight limit, you have to get certified as either a pilot, if you're going to be making money solely with the drone, or a hobbyist. And so I'm certified as a hobbyist because it's not my main, I would have to take classes if I were to be a pilot. And so basically that means that the FAA knows I have a drone, and now I have these. I even have a little card that says I'm certified.
Oh,
so,
interesting.
You do have to certify it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then there's no excuse for people who aren't following the rules.
Exactly. And the drone actually has built-in features that won't allow you to fly over 400 feet is what the FAA regulates. Can't fly over 400, and you have to keep it within line of sight. And it even has built-in features that show no-fly zones. And so if you get near an airport landing strip, it won't let you enter, it won't let you take off if you're in there. And so you have to go in and disable all of these features just to use it.
Interesting.
So to break the law, you have to really try to break the law.
Wow, interesting.
So, but needless to say, it kind of ruins it for the rest of us who are trying to use this really powerful videography tool when you go and you fly it over a wildfire or an airport or whatever the case may be. So,
how often have you used the drone?
All the time.
Yeah.
Because it's so small, I'll take it wherever I go.
Sure.
On hikes, it has what I call the Jedi feature, and you can actually hold up your hand, set it to the feature, and actually pilot it like this. If you do, this, it'll go farther away, this closer. It'll follow you along. It's kind of eerie, but it's cool. We call it the Jedi feature, though, because it's doing that.
Interesting.
But everywhere I go, if I can.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's a really cool tool.
So we've covered some of the different visual stuff. Our families are both very musical, and always doing music for everything. Family get-togethers, shows, whatever.
Jam sessions.
Yeah, jam sessions. So when it comes to film and creative storytelling and things like that, what is music's role? And I broke this down into a couple different things because there are a lot of different things to think about. One of them is, as you got into videography, when did you decide, hey, I need to start having music put to this? Secondly, how did you choose what you were going to use? And third, who do you try to emulate when you choose music for your videos?
As a young editor, someone who started with Movie Maker or iMovie or whatnot, I had no idea how to use any of these more powerful editors. So, when I got up into Sony Vegas or into Premiere or what have you, I wasn't really sure what I was doing. I had no idea what a good edit looked like. Right. I knew you could take clips and you'd chop some off. So some of the earlier edits I have all these empty spaces before and after each of these shots because, I didn't know what a quick cut was. I didn't know what any of this meant.
Right.
And so, learning first off the editor, but one of the easiest ways I found to cope with difficult editors or, learning how to edit was the very first thing I would do was find music that just fit with what it was. Say it was a pirate movie, Pirates of the Caribbean, which later this got me into a lot of trouble with YouTube because, copyright stuff, but, you live, you learn. So I would throw in, a song from Pirates of the Caribbean or whatnot, and I would edit to it. I would let the music kind of inspire me because that's what I knew. At that point, I had been doing music, really since birth. And it was an easy way for me to cope with the editing process. So
interesting.
Even a lot of the films I do now, some of the first things I'll do is throw in the music. Because if you're doing a music montage, that's another thing.
Sure.
I mean, of course, that's really more music driven. But with a lot of the short films, there was one that we did with our cousin Ben, and it was a matter of finding really good music that fit to that. That was kind of the first time I had started editing before putting in music.
Interesting.
And starting to, do it the way it was intended. Because typically you would film a scene, you would have your edited, and then you would go in and someone would score to it.
Right.
So you let the scene inspire the music. But for me, not being an editor. So it kind of has come from the music inspiring the scene now to what it should be, the scene inspiring the music.
Gotcha.
And so most recently with some of the short films and things I have done, I've tried to do it the other way around. And I have tried to both start composing music. I have a friend who loves composing music, hired him on to do some music, and actually had him watch the scene and score to it. And so I'm a firm believer that the music is one of the key aspects to any film, because it has been since the beginning. You would watch a silent film and they would actually have someone there playing the piano right along to it. So I feel it's one of the most important features to a film, to really anything you watch visually. Without music, it just feels bare and empty.
And so who do you follow stylistically, or who do you try to emulate, or who do you kind of look for inspiration with your music?
Meaning me and my family, are weird. I mean, you guys included, I guess, huh?
Well, yeah, probably.
And we're the kind of people who will go to a movie and will actually try to listen for the composer. So say we see a Spielberg movie, we immediately know it's going to be John Williams.
Right.
In which case, it's like Ready Player One. That was Alan Silvestri, side note. But we go in and we listen and we actually kind of compete with each other. And we're like, well, there's a lot of synthesized vocals, or there's a lot of pounding drums. So it could be like James Horner or Hans Zimmer. And so from a young age, even with the Disney movies, the Sherman Brothers writing music and lyrics up to Alan Menken, Tim Rice, that kind of thing, we have just had this weird desire to love the soundtracks of any of these movies. That's one of the things we watch for in the credits. Or we're the kind of people who's not like, oh, we don't care about this new artist single. Just don't care. We're going to go and pick up the soundtrack to Jurassic Park or what have you. And so that's kind of been an inspiration all the way along. And part of the reason why I would edit to the music.
Gotcha.
And part of the reason I got in trouble is because I had this big library of movie music.
Right.
And so a lot of what you hear, if you've seen the short In the Valley with Ben in it, a lot of that is from the movie Angels and Demons and the Da Vinci Code. Because it's a lot of this kind of ethereal, angelic kind of sounding stuff, but it's also very eerie, and you have this lower bit of pounding drums over here, and it starts to build up really intense. And so I had all of this on hand to edit with.
So now when you go into an independent film with that kind of background, do you reference things when you want something composed? I'd like it to sound like this, or
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's they say that there are no new ideas. So if you go in kind of with that in mind and you go, this is how I would like it to go, it definitely gives you a jumping off point. And then allows you to be more creative because, this is our jumping off point. You don't have to figure that part out.
Yeah, for sure.
So
it's nice to have the reference. It really is.
Absolutely.
It's nice to have the background knowledge of, all of this weird stuff. Friends are like, what kind of music do you like? Soundtracks. They're like, you're weird.
Yeah, right.
So it's
But there have been a lot of hits off of soundtracks too. So
right?
Yeah,
well, and I mean, you walk into any theme park and you're walking through, you start hearing Indiana Jones and you're like, I must be somewhere near that attraction. It's a motif that you recognize.
Yep.
And so it's impactful.
Yeah.
So.
you're a professional videographer because you do weddings, you get paid to do some of these things, but you don't really have a formal education in videography. So what's your take on videography with or without education? And we talked a little bit about this kind of on the way over here, where there's different learning curves.
Yeah, I feel in this day and age, as useful as an education is in something like videography, it's not necessary. I mean, obviously, I don't have an education. The highest education I have with videography is really watching tutorials. And it goes to show that kind of in this day and age of YouTube and social media, a lot of people will, document changing your oil in a car, for instance. So you don't have to really know how to do that. My elder brother, not necessarily much of a mechanic, but he's fixed some pretty major things on his car just from watching YouTube videos.
Right, right.
And so I feel like if you look out on any social media platform and you see some of these creative minds making what they're able to make, they are using the cameras they have best on them. Right. A lot of times cell phones. There's a wealth of amazing software out there that has become very affordable, as well as gear. Yeah. I mean, I use my VFX software. There is a version of it that's free, and it does tons of things, more than I have ever imagined with a VFX software. Right. And of course, I've graduated to the one that I have purchased now. But it's amazing that more and more people are realizing that there are folks who want to be creative out here, and a lot of people who have become very successful on YouTube. Not needing any sort of formal degree or education.
Changes the industry.
It really does. I mean, and the fact that things have become fairly common is both a blessing and a curse. Camera gear becoming cheaper is a blessing and a curse, or more accessible. As opposed to buying a $10,000 camera, you have a $500 camera in your cell phone that you can use if you have the creative means.
Right.
And so, I don't really believe an education is necessary. I do believe it's helpful because it's great to know how to frame a shot. It's great to know the rules. Then you know further how to break them.
Right.
Because it's helpful to know how to know your rule of thirds and to know not to break the 180 degrees and things like that.
Right.
It's helpful, but it's just so you can go and later break them.
Yeah. So rule breaking is kind of mandatory if you're creating your own stuff, because you're trying to create something new. So going to that, talk a little bit about your latest film, your latest short.
Sure. So
which was really dark.
Was a little dark, just a little bit. So my friends and I, two of my good high school buddies moved off to Georgia. One of them actually to pursue some stuff in the film industry, and he's actually going to be in this, I don't know if it came out or not yet, this next Godzilla movie. Oh, cool. As one of the military extras in there. So he's been making a lot of strides without an education. Yeah. So he's not acting degree or anything, but he's been making big strides. The other one as a voice actor. Cool. And so he's been doing a lot of commercial work down there. But needless to say, we don't get together very often. So this last Christmas, we had gotten together and decided we wanted to do a short film. It was kind of something we do regardless. When we get together, we make something fun. Right. That's kind of how all of this began, whether on iMovie or formally. So we decided to get together and do something different, do something serious, something that wasn't just the stupid stuff that we usually would put together, as much as we love that, and something that was realistic and was true to the industry, was true to how you would make a short film, an indie film. And so we took inspiration from this poem that one of my friends had found. It was fairly dark, but it was talking about the contrast between light and dark, and how they would clash with each other in certain scenarios. And really, it was like 10 lines long. It was kind of sad. And so we sat in a coffee shop, as a lot of great ideas start in coffee shops, right? And for a couple days, we pounded out a screenplay and a script. We had taken the poem and added on to it and made it our own and took inspiration from it to the point where it was, I think, a 2-page document or something. Because we knew that we wanted to do a film that really demonstrated this concept, but also had running narration behind it.
Right.
You know, something that wasn't dialogue based. We didn't have the sound equipment to do dialogue based film at this point. So we had to keep our options kind of limited, unfortunately. So it took a couple months to get it all pounded out. We started filming with it. It was going to feature the friend that was going to pursue all this in Georgia. It was going to be a chance for all of us to test our talents. So one of my friends was the one who liked writing scores, very talented pianist and knew his MIDI keyboard left and right. He was going to be doing the music. The voice actor was going to be doing narration, and then of course featuring our talented actor. And my other best friend he's the photographer, so he was doing a lot of the stills and was like co-cinematographer with me, and then it would be my chance to do directing and cinematography. And so all together we were able to collaborate and make I'm definitely proud of it. I think we're all fairly proud of it. It is a fairly dark short film, but one that accurately demonstrated what we wanted to show. It was, 20 minutes long, so we were hoping for bridging the difference between short film and feature. I think it stops being a short after 40 minutes, but and then it's something that we wanted to enter into the Durango Film Festival.
Oh, cool.
So I've been currently working on that.
Nice.
It's coming up here soon, and you know, it was hard. It was a hard film to do. It was our first stab at a cinematic and, you know, true to the industry kind of film.
Yeah.
You know, really pulling all of our stops. We had gear that we had built for it and did the whole costuming and makeup and things that we just had never really considered.
Yeah.
And came out with a really compelling product that people really seemed to enjoy.
Yeah,
So.
it looked good.
Yeah.
It really did. It was dark. I wasn't expecting
Hopefully
that.
didn't depress anybody.
Yeah, right. But that gave you a chance to be producer and director.
And to change the dynamic of content. Yeah, to do something grungy, do something that wasn't happy-go-lucky, cheesy.
Right.
You know, and a lot of folks
learn a lot that way.
Exactly. Yeah, you learn a lot about, you know, yourself and a lot about how to do a film in that genre. It's very different, you know, how to color a film and how to edit a film in that genre. Like, that was more sound mixing than I had ever done. I had 40 or 50 timelines just for sound effects, and actually our first stab at doing Foley, and it was fun. Yeah. It was a learning experience for all of us, that's for sure.
So we've talked about your perspectives on things. We've talked about your film, and I know you're going to be working on a lot more projects. So how can people find you and find, you know, to contact you if they want, you know, to hire you for something, or if they're interested in watching your films?
Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, I have a bigger following on Facebook.
Really?
I've tried YouTube, not terribly successful on YouTube.
Yeah.
It seems like unless it's cat videos or funny compilations of some sort, you don't really get a whole lot of pull on YouTube. So, you know, you have a lot of these amazing creative contributors to YouTube, and they have the lowest views. But anyways, that's for a different day. But Facebook, actually. So you can find my company, Out of This World Entertainment, everything capitalized but the of. If the of's capitalized, you'll get a wedding DJ. So careful about that.
There you go.
But
there you go.
Anyways, you can find me there on Facebook and scroll through. I am also on Instagram as same, Out of This World Entertainment.
Okay.
And then I do have a website. Doesn't get a lot of traffic, so if anyone wants to put some more traffic on it, that would be great.
Sure, that's always good.
But I won't tell you the whole URL. That'll probably be at the end, huh?
Yeah, we can put that in the credits for you.
Perfect. But anyways, you can find there too, and that'll give you links to all of the social media as well as YouTube, and everything's listed there as clearly as I could make it easy enough to find.
Cool. So you got lots of ways to find you. That's good.
Try to make it that way. Yeah. Best I can.
Yeah. So. Any insights or advice, having trudged through this to figure it out, for anyone who might be watching that's either just starting or has thought about doing something with videography?
I would say if you have a creative mean, if you have the will to do something creative, don't let anything like gear stop you. Because I have been pulling a part-time job as well as paying for college, and somehow I managed a way to save up for, you know, the gear that would help. So first thing is, like you'd said earlier, the camera you have on you is the best camera you have. And as starting from a little point-and-shoot digital camera, it really is true. You can do some amazing things with any gear that you happen to have. The other thing is, in this day and age, and my brother hates this so much, the fact that we have something like YouTube. as opposed to even 10 years ago, it really wasn't huge. I mean, it was building from that way too. So you have access to stock footage and you have access to sound effects. I still use a lot of sound effects off of YouTube.
Sure,
You have access to Creative Commons and public domain, and it's some great stuff out there. So be willing to watch tutorials, to educate yourself, to not only contribute what you are learning through this experience and whatever knowledge you may have, but to build on that. Watch a tutorial on how to edit a specific kind of thing or what feel you should be giving this short. And I feel that if you have a creative mean, you're going to succeed. And we're really in kind of a golden age when it comes to access to, to really just about anything, to information, to gear, to, find someone who inspires you. My elder brother was someone who inspired me in this field. And then even above that, you have amazing directors still pumping out hits like Steven Spielberg. And for me, a personal inspiration, Walt Disney, with the creative storytelling aspect. So find someone who inspires you. Follow a channel. I follow Film Riot. So I'm going to throw a little stuff their way. They do some amazing tutorials, and they show you how to do things for cheap, run and gun style, for indie filmmakers, and even if you're bridging past that. So you have a lot of information at your hands. So use
Take
that.
advantage, yeah.
Take advantage of it. Use your cell phone. Use the stuff you have on you, because it's a pretty good day for access to these things.
Cool.
So
thanks for coming up again, Daniel.
Absolutely.
This was
Thank you
fun.
for having me.
And even though I've known you your whole life, and we've talked about this before the show, you gave some information I wasn't aware of, so that's good.
Good.
That was fun.
Glad to do it.
Appreciate you coming up. And folks, make sure that you check out his website, check out his Facebook page, check out his shorts, all that stuff. He's got some cool stuff out there. And as always, support local and independent artists. It's so important. We wouldn't have the big stuff if the little guy wasn't there. So make sure you check out his stuff, and we'll have all of his information running through the credits. And as always, thanks for watching.